But when in my understanding, when Jesus fasted, he fasted and meditated.
And meditated.
It's like people get the fasting part, but not the meditation.
So you got the action and the spirit.
Yeah. Oh, Josh, you
Did I go?
You did.
Did I go there?
You did. The action and the spirit.
Well, there's balance.
Okay.
There's balance.
Well, I mean, you know what? Okay, so once we make the transition and realize we're broken, how does someone get the hopelessness and then get into the domestic violence?
Yeah,
Piece of this, like where does domestic violence start in the household?
So, from what I've seen, domestic violence is very seldom a first generation problem.
Okay,
it's usually we got this from somebody else, who got this from somebody else,
it's learned behavior.
Who got this from somebody else. And if you trace it back far enough, it came from outside the house. There was somebody in the house who was a victim of violence.
Wow.
You talk about your civil rights era, where people having dogs.
Even before that, though. Before slavery.
Go back to slavery and things like that. And so we can only do what we see. If we don't know that something exists, we can't really do it.
Yeah.
If we don't know that there is a pathway of peace, we can't walk on it. And so if all we see is violence, then that's what we portray.
Right.
Because what it becomes is, I did something to make the master angry, the master beats me. So then in the household, it becomes the wife did something I don't like, I beat her. And the wife says, well, the kids don't act right, I beat them. And it becomes this trickle down effect.
And I didn't even think of it like
that. That's just within. And realize that this happens outside of the black community.
Yeah.
But within the black community, this is kind of the way it flowed down.
But even looking at all communities, it sounds like this is something that's done in all communities.
This happens in every community, no matter what your race or culture is.
So what about so last week we did the 2 weeks straight we did the 21 things men. So domestic violence in men, what are some things that happens to men during domestic violence?
So let's back up. For men, most of the time, domestic violence is something that they experienced growing up. Usually, they had an abusive father. Most times, there's chemicals involved. So, alcoholic father, drug addict father, and what happens is in that father, he had it happen to him, but also he's starting to see characteristics of himself in his child, and he doesn't like it. And if I can beat that out of him.
If I can beat this out of you.
Yeah, if I can beat this out of that weakness that I have, I'm seeing it in you. I don't like it. I'm going to beat it out of you.
But you adding to it. But
in the mind, remember, in the mind of an addict, nothing makes sense. It makes sense to them, but it doesn't make sense to us. And so they're driven by the thing that happened to them.
I watched a great movie. I mean to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
I watched a great movie. It's the movie by it's not the Craft, but it showed Jesus as being. I mean, not Jesus, but showed God as being the Holy Trinity. It was a black lady that was God. That was part of God. It was an Asian lady. What's it called? But I'll just give you a description. Yeah. It showed that the reason that the father was the way he was because of the way that his father treated him. Yeah. And it seemed like it trickles down. Yeah. And that's what I'm hearing from you.
And that's what it does. It trickles down. And so then you have a son who was raised in an abusive household, and he doesn't have the true family experience of what a real family looks like. And before you know it, he's raising a family of his own. Now, the way we get to that family usually is he's engaged in sexual behavior with a woman. That is his release from the abuse that he suffered.
So now we're connecting the dots.
Right.
He's been abused. The release from that abuse is the sexual experience with the woman. Now he starts the cycle all over again.
They're having kids because when you have sex long enough, you're going to have kids. So
let me tell you.
And so he ends up having kids. He's not even ready. He doesn't even know what fatherhood looks like.
Right.
He didn't
But he knows what abuse looks like.
And if we as men especially, we're compartmentalizers. And so that box I have for father might be filled with all the wrong things, but it's the only box I got. And so it's the only thing I can draw from.
Those are the only tools I got. Yeah. I can't fix the problem if I ain't got the right tools. And I can't even heal what I never revealed. So if I'm not even cognizant of the problem, then there's no way that I'm going to shed light on it.
And I thought this is the way it's supposed to go. Dad's supposed to come home angry and get drunk and be
it's normalized behavior.
Yeah. And so then I exhibit that. And then my kids see it. and they exhibit it, and it becomes this generational thing.
And so now you got a generation of abusers, and also you teaching you have a generation of victims too, because the abuser has to have victims.
Right. And so we talk about, and this is kind of a slight transition, but you talk about the men who grew up being abused, but then you've also got that gap of men who are victims as they grow up. Because
they're victims and abusers.
Yeah, there's kind of like this. If you remember back in high school, the Punnett Square of like these different categories and possibilities. You have a person who could have been abused growing up, and all they know is how to be abused. So when they marry a woman, what do they marry? A woman who is an abuser.
Oh man, so I'm a teacher too. For man. So the other day I was talking with another colleague, and he was saying that, for some reason, and if no explanation, you always attract what you don't need. Like you can take two of the worst students in the school, and they're gonna find a way to be together.
Yep.
Well, here's my theory on that. The home is your template, right, for how things are supposed to go, and you tend to emulate your same-sex parent. So I emulate my father, and what am I looking for? I'm looking for your same-sex parent. The complement to my father, which is my mother. And so whatever my mother was, I might have hated everything about my mother.
But the fact is that she was
what was my template? Okay, I have to have somebody who meets that template. Who fit. I could go and walk into a room full of 100 of the greatest women in history, and I'm going to find that one.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing about trauma. Trauma becomes comfort at some point. Did you know that? Trauma becomes comfort because it's familiar.
So it's the familiarity of trauma that becomes the comfort.
Yeah, because I know it. Change is scary.
Yeah, it is. So I
don't know how to be treated well. I don't know what it's like to be with somebody who's good, and I flip out when they don't hit me. But if I'm with somebody who hits me, I know how to handle that because I grew up with it.
Man, this is speaking to a lot of issues.
Hey, real quick, we got Richard Tatum from Celebration Place, first NLR. Golly.
Man.
Man.
Didn't I tell you should have tuned in? I told you to stay tuned in.
If you just now, literally, the first 15 minutes of this conversation was enough.
That was a show. That was enough. But now now we're transitioning to, we have domestic violence and men. Now let's get to the children because children are indirectly the victims, even though they may not be called that at that moment. And I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Yeah. Well, and so what I call those the bystanders. That's my term I use for it. They were not, maybe not necessarily abused themselves, but they watched it happen.
But they watched it.
And so they are the bystanders of it. I am a bystander. I was not abused as a child, but it happened in my house. And it has a deep psychological effect. One of the scariest moments in my life was I was watching a physical altercation occur in my house, and the abuser had the victim pinned down. And the victim is screaming for me, run and get help. I had an uncle that lived down the block, and the victim is screaming, go get help. And the abuser says, if you run, I'll get you too. That is some of the deepest scarring.
Golly. So the fact that you was going to run and get help, I'm getting you too.
Yeah, because I'm going to get her.
That's manipulation at its finest.
I'm going to get you too. And man, I was paralyzed.
Yeah, because it's almost nothing you can do.
Because the victim.
How old were you right then?
I was about 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so the victim is telling me, don't worry, I will not let this person get you. Don't worry, I'll do everything I can.
But how can you say that?
How can you say that?
But that's my mentality.
Exactly.
Is I'm watching you being pinned down.
You're not even in control of this situation.
How can you protect me?
Yeah.
And I'm hearing the words of the abuser. And I believe
them words.
At that point in time, they're the ones that has perceived power.
Yeah, they not just perceived power.
They have the power.
No, I'm talking about from a kid's perspective.
From my perspective.
Oh, yeah.
This is the person who got the.
Oh yeah, they got the power. Yeah. There's
all the power,
no confusion,
and there's nothing this other person can do to save me. And so that was a big thing. And so children who grow up in these households. I was very fortunate in that my parents were divorced. So this didn't happen between my biological parents. This happened between biological parent and step parent. And so I was able to at times go live with my other biological parent, and it kind of acted as the counterbalance to what I was seeing. So I was very fortunate in that regard.
Because you saw like the best.
You saw both.
Not the best.
Not the best.
I saw the
You saw both. You saw both ends of the spectrum.
You
saw the best of this one, but
the worst of this one. Yeah.
So you see the poles of it. You know, and so children who grow up seeing that, they are scarred because, one, they have no sense of security. I am never safe. At any given moment, something could jump off, and I'm stuck in a violent situation.
That feeling. Let's go. Let's address that feeling that I'm never safe, because I don't know if it's just me being a teacher, if I really. But the feeling that because we talked about this earlier, children are really good observers but poor interpreters.
Right.
I mean, they'll see something happen and like, oh, that's what that is, but they interpret it the completely wrong way, and then they grow up becoming. They feel like I'm safe, but not safe.
Right.
I don't know how to put that in words, but the feeling of that not being safe.
There are places where they kind of feel safer than they do at home, and so the guard comes down a little bit. But what happens is you have that post-traumatic DNA in you. And so, I might be at school and everything's cool. I'm laughing, joking with my friends, and somebody gets up too quick, knocks a desk over, desk bang on the floor. That instant,
trigger.
Bam.
I'm triggered. Okay, I'm not safe anymore, and I'm flipping out because I'm not safe. So we have that buffer that makes us feel safe because I'm not actually in this location.
Yeah,
but you still have mentally.
But like I said, I'm never completely safe.
And you know what? Earlier we talked about the environment of how things, but a lot of times genetics, you can pass down things genetically that from jump. Like, why am I attracted to XYZs? Because it's in your genes.
It's in your genes. Absolutely. And so you can attract abusers, you can attract victims. You can attract anything really, and it happens almost subconsciously. Kind of a detour, and I'll bring it back. But I mentioned that, I struggled with pornography and sexual addiction for a while. And I didn't have to talk to a woman to know that she had low self-esteem. I could pick it up when I walked in the room.
Smell it.
Wow.
And I for lack of a better term, I was a predator. I knew which woman had low self-esteem, and she's going to make this deal real easy for me.
Yeah.
All I got to do is go over and say something nice to her,
flirt with her
and
a little bit.
Bam, there it is.
You're done.
Yeah.
And the deal is done.
How many men are willing to admit to that?
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot.
Right. Right. Not a whole lot.
And so I've learned.
He said the P word.
Yeah.
I'm a predator.
Yeah.
Well, like, that's like.
Was. Hold on.
Whoa. Yeah.
Was.
Not present tense. Not present tense.
So, and I've learned that there is freedom in the confession.
Yeah.
If I'm willing to say it and I'm willing to throw it out there, then that means that other people know, and I've got to do something about it now.
Well, no. See, that's the thing. Like the confession is one thing. The responsibility of doing something about it is another.
Yeah.
I think that last step is missing. Yeah. I feel like I don't even feel like people make the confession.
Yeah.
I feel like
that's the thing is if they never make the confession, the responsibility of changing never happens.
It never happens.
But when I am willing to openly confess this, you know, now y'all are going to be looking at me some kind of way. Now I've got to do something. One of my best friends told me this. He read it in a book called The Ragamuffin Gospel. And it was the line was, the best thing that could ever happen to you is have your entire life dumped on the evening news for everybody to see.
Wow.
Why? Because now it's out there. There's nothing left to hide. Nothing left to hide behind. It's all out there. And sometimes we do the things we do. Abusers, they become abusers because they're hiding behind something. For instance, overwhelming, I think the statistic is about 75% of people who experience sexual abuse as kids grow up to become abusers.
Wow. Even if they, so let me.
They were victims.
That's what I was about to say. So the victims become the abusers because they normalize that behavior.
That pain.
It is, I am dealing with this thing, And it's not so much the pain that it happened as it is the shame that's associated with it. It's a shameful thing that this happened to me, especially as males. When you have male on male abuse, man, it destroys them inside.
Right.
And I have this shame. And I want to know that I'm not alone. So I perpetrate this thing, one, because it's normalized in me, but two, there's somebody else who's going through this. And even though I'm perpetrating it to them, they are going